those who are wealthy is you become rich by adding value. And so that's at that early age when I started to be around Jack and some other people. I'm like, whoa, so there's this whole different world out there. So many people think that in order to grow money, you have to detract and take from someone, that someone's got to lose in order for you to win. And it's not a zero-sum game. Someone does not have to lose in order for you to win. And as long as you make that mindset and go, whoa, everyone can win, I just need to help people win even more than they would without me. How can I help people win more with me than without me? Mm-hmm. But if I can help people win more with me than without me, they win, I win, and I should be compensated really well for that. Hey guys and gals, Trevor here, coming at you with another episode of the Carrot Cast, episode number 2 inside of the studio with Brady.
Yeah. Brady's
here on with me again. We had so much great feedback. I'm looking into the camera right now, so if you're watching this on YouTube, you're on the camera. If you're listening to this on iTunes, amazing. But go to YouTube, and we have a whole YouTube version of it. You can see the studio, you can see us, you can see the amazing new Coach Carrot here. This came in this week. Coach Carrot, if you're watching this on video, we have thousands of these just landed in the office this week. But this episode is going to be something that it's been one that I've had these questions asked a lot of me over the years. It's ones that I've thought, you've thought, Brady's thought. We've all thought these questions around money. And Brady came into the studio this morning. He's like, it'd be a really, really cool one to talk about, what do wealthy people do with their money? How do wealthy people spend their money? How did it change over the years from when I didn't have any money and now we do? And what about the people that I know, the people that are entrepreneurs and have been broke and are wealthy and have been flopped back and forth? And Seth Bueckley's a good example, right? We've had him in the Carrot Cast twice. And then also I want to talk about the mindsets around money that are different, because I sat here for about 10 minutes before this episode, and we've got the whiteboard over here. And on the whiteboard, I sat there and went, okay, so what are the mindsets of people who, and this isn't about people who have money versus don't, right? It's more mindsets of how do you become, how do wealthy people think? And I'm not just talking people that have money, because Brady, these people I do, people that have money and then they end up blowing it. They're not really wealthy. They've got money in the bank, but they're probably going to lose it in a year or 5 years. Their mindset hasn't caught up with it. So we're more talking about the mindset side of it, not just the bank account.
Right. Not the effect, not the situation they're in.
Exactly. So before we do this, I want to give a little bit of a plug, and we're going to be, after this, filming a video on it. But we have a brand new, I mentioned it on the last episode of the Carrot Cast, but we have a brand new episode of the Carrot Cast. It's going to be a second episode every single week that's going to come out. So we're going to be launching a second episode every week. It's called Ask Carrot, and we're going to do a full video about it. We'll do a full podcast about it. But Brady, really quick, where can people ask Carrot? Where are we going to be putting this thing live? Because it's going to be a live podcast, but it's also going to go into iTunes recorded.
Yep.
Where can people find out about it in case they don't see our announcement?
Carrot.com/ask. We're going to have a YouTube video embedded on the website. You can come in there, pop in your questions, and we'll also have a little inbox so you can send us your questions ahead of time. So anytime you think of something throughout the week, send us your questions. I'll be collecting them. We're going to sift through them, and we're going to take some of those best questions and feed them to Trevor, and we're just going to answer them. We're going to go back and forth, and it's just your shot to, I don't know, whatever you want to ask.
And dude, there was a killer good question that came through. I think it was Facebook or Instagram. It was Facebook on Facebook Messenger. And we were reading it yesterday, like, oh my gosh, that's going to be one of the first Ask Carrot questions that we're going to record next week, I think it is. So go to carrot.com, ask y'all, and you're going to be able to find out how you can tune in live on one of the different platforms, or they'll be posted here on Thursdays, I think, right?
Yes.
Something like that. Okay, you guys will get a second episode every week. All right, so let's dig into this real quick. I want to give some backstory, then I want to toss it over to Brady to ask some questions, because he's got some good questions lined out here. But quick backstory is this. I remember going back, this would have been 2007. So I graduated college in 2005, here in Oregon Institute of Technology, the MIT of Oregon. And I went there and got a business degree. So the business program was not... It was kind of like, and we have a business program. They have amazing engineering programs, amazing medical programs. Oh, and by the way, we have business. And so I graduated there, and then my wife and I got married in 2006. We moved up to Portland in 2006, 2007. We were there, 2006. We were there for 2.5 years. Moved down here to Roseburg, Oregon, from Portland at the end of 2008. And the reason I'm bringing this up is between that time, I had a lot of things that changed and really cemented within me around my outlook on money. And I never grew up wealthy. Like I didn't. I remember vividly. I was probably second or third grade, man. Klamath Falls, Oregon, driving. Not me driving, but my mom and dad driving. I remember the exact road we were on, all this kind of stuff, and it's one of those moments where you wonder, like, why do I remember this from as a child, way young. And my dad had got laid off from his job. He was a manager at an equipment rental store. And so let's pull back even further 10 years before that. My dad had grown up an amazing athlete. He got drafted by the Oakland A's. He got drafted by the Seattle Mariners, played for both the Mariners and the A's. He had these dreams of being a big league ball player. That's all he ever wanted to be and do. And he got injured his second year in. And he was like on the fast track. And so after that, he had to kind of figure out, what do I want to do? And he fell into a position somehow where this local rental store in Klamath Falls, Oregon, needed someone to work there, and he worked his way up to manage it. And then that rental store ended up getting bought by another company, and the culture kind of changed a little bit. And this other company across town that was traditionally kind of farm equipment, and the reason I'm bringing this up is because that person didn't manage their money well, but they had a lot of it. They had the wrong money mindset. It was a big farm equipment company. You could buy combines and tractors and all kinds of stuff. They recognized that their business wasn't doing well. They needed to add a new income stream to their business. So they're like, let's do rental equipment. And so they recruited my dad. And my dad went over there, and he took over as general manager of this, honestly, looking back, failing company. And he put in the rental side of it. It started to do pretty darn good, but it couldn't catch up with all of the debt that this company had, and just all this crust that he couldn't work through. Yeah. So that company went out of business, and he was left without a job, 3 kids.
In your second grade, second or third grade?
Around there, man. I can't remember specifically, but it was first, second, third. Probably not quite third, but first or second grade, probably, maybe third. And, 3 young kids. We had a house. My mom, by that time, had started a business in our basement doing just wedding stuff. I remember going down to our basement. Our basement was literally a couple shelving rows and a desk at the end of it. The shelves they're kind of these nice little glass shelves. They had wedding stuff on it, paper goods and little ring bearer pillows and things like that people could come in and they could buy. And my mom would sit down there and help them plan their weddings to make extra money. And so in this time, we were driving down the street in Klamath Falls, Oregon, and my dad had just got laid off. He wasn't sure what he's going to do, and he'd never been an entrepreneur up to that point. And I remember telling my mom, because I'd always been a saver, I always thought that saving money is a good thing. And I think it is a good thing at the start. And you'll learn later how that's not what wealthy people do. Wealthy people don't save their money, and I'll tell you guys why and how I made that transition. But I was always a saver, so I had a couple $100 in my bank account. And my mom was talking about us having to be more frugal with things, and we couldn't get this thing that we wanted. I can't remember what it was. And I said, Mom, you guys can have the money in my bank account. And it almost makes me tear up when I'm saying that, but like, you guys can have the money in my bank account. And that goes to another principle up on the whiteboard that I'm going to talk about here in a little bit, about what wealthy people do with their money versus people who aren't. I adopted the giving mindset way early in my life. I think it's something that was just ingrained into me from my parents. They didn't take the money because they were awesome parents. They didn't take their second grade kids' money. But my dad went out there and created a business. Yeah. And so from then on, it wasn't easy. His business partners swindled him out of their business they created a year later. A bunch of crazy stuff went down. He expected my dad just to put his head down and his tail between his legs and go do something else. Instead, he started another rental store right down the street. So literally 3 blocks from where his business partner ripped him off, he started another one. He's like, I'm just going to go head to head with this guy and beat him. And he did. Yeah. He's got the biggest rental equipment store in Southern Oregon now. Wow. So during those years, I learned a lot of things about money, a lot of things that I think my parents do amazing, a lot of things that I think they don't. And then when we moved up to Portland, that's where I really started to learn a lot more. My mentor, Jack, who's my dad's best friend, he was a guy who was pretty darn wealthy. He had a big multi-million-dollar house on the Willamette River there in Lake Oswego, like the most expensive part of Portland. When I was doing consulting for him, just trying to learn stuff, I would show up and his office was a whole wing of the house. And he would just like lay all this money knowledge on me all the time. Like, do this, don't do that. Why don't you look at this thing? Hey, Trevor, read these things, for no other reason than he thought I should read them and start to learn this stuff. And during that time period, man, I started to flip the script on what money was for me. I started to flip the script on how money can really flow easily if you let it flow easily. I started to flip the script on money not being a scarce thing, being an abundant thing. And so I'm going to dive deeper into that phase of life and then fast forward to today. Now, I'll shut up now, but I know you've got some good questions. I want to give people a little bit of a backstory to where it wasn't always this way.
Right.
It wasn't always this way. And when we were living in Portland, I actually went in credit card debt the first year as an entrepreneur. I went in credit card debt, about $16,000 in credit card bills. I had to pay my taxes. I've told this story a lot of times. I've had to pay my taxes on my credit card that year. I didn't set up my business correctly. It was just a straight up LLC, so all the money flew straight through, tax at the highest rate.
Right.
Even though I didn't make any money, I made 16 grand that year in gross income. I had a bunch of credit card debt and I had a big tax bill. And you look at it and go like, how does the guy who made $16,000 have a tax bill? Is because of all the self-employment tax, all the other things I didn't think about because I set things up wrong. So I'm going to toss it over to you, man.
Yeah.
You and I are in different phases of life. You're in your mid-20s, I'm mid-30s, so I've got 10 years on you or so. What questions do you have right now as a mid-20-something-year-old around money, around how that relationship happens and how it works?
Yeah, definitely. So, well, one thing I want to point out real quick here is if you're listening to this, we're going to cover a lot about the mindset around money, but if you're listening to this and you got all this figured out, if you're in a good spot with money, if you have kids, you're passing this stuff on. So, how you live your life, I just think Trevor's story is a really good example of that. Even if you get it all figured out, you got little ones watching you. So, just to give some context around the conversation, so Trevor, where's Carrot at right now financially? Yeah,
so Carrot's doing good. One of our core values here at Carrot posted on the wall is transparency. So I'll be transparent. Carrot right now financially, we did just under $6 million last year in revenue in our 5th year. We're profitable. We're really profitable. Yep. We're bootstrapped. We didn't take any funding. And we have multiple 7 figures in the bank in the company, so we're a stable company. But I'm going to then lead into how I made some mistakes,
right,
even with my money now, where I definitely don't have it all figured out, man. I was literally, my friend Doug Faith texted me last night, and he called me at 8:00 last night, and he's on the East Coast. And he was just getting home, and he's really good with managing money. I'm really good making money. I'm not as good managing it, right? So he hit me up, and he's like, hey, I know you had a plan this year to do X, Y, Z with your money. Like, how you doing on your plan? And he's not a financial planner. He's a real estate investor. He's just really good at helping people build wealth with the money. I'm like, dude, I'm doing really good with my income in the business, but man, I need to get a plan here. So I'm going to even walk through some things I'm struggling on right now.
So there was a point, I forget if you had mentioned this in your story already, but there was a point in your, I want to say late 20s when you were making $100,000 a year. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So I want to go back to, someone that's my age in their young 20s, mid 20s, that's the end game. That's the goal. For some people, it's I want to make 40 grand, I want to make 60 grand, some 100 grand.
Yep.
And that can be elusive and it can, keep going up, up and up. But for a lot of people my age, that's their end game. That's what they're chasing. So go back to when you were that age. So when you were making 100 grand a year in your 20s, you weren't happy. Why weren't you happy?
Man, so let me toss this at you right here because I've got my board up there once again. I wrote about 10 or 15 things on each side of it, the mindset of those who are wealthy versus those who aren't. And one thing that popped up when you asked that question is, dude, it's funny. I never gauged my worth with money. I never gauged my worth with money. I never said, hey, once I get to $100,000, then I'll be set financially. But it was never putting down the $100,000 mark. Like that's an amazing milestone, dude.
Yeah.
I think there's studies out there that say after $70,000 in income, it's all diminishing returns.
Right.
Every dollar after that's diminishing returns. So if we were to look at, my same thing, I'm being transparent here, y'all. If you were to look at my taxable income, it's well over $1 million a year right now. I'm not any happier because of my money than I was when I was making $100,000.
Right. And that's a good point. Those studies are true. It's somewhere around $60,000 to $70,000. And so money money can't buy happiness. To a certain point, money can reduce stress and anxiety, consistency, predictability.
Money's awesome. Like I'm not gonna lie. Like I don't want to put down anyone's ambitions to make as much money as you possibly can, doing it legally, ethically, adding value. It's amazing. Like I'm not gonna say it's not. I'm just saying, like Brady's saying, there's a diminishing returns.
Right.
And we'll get into this here in a little bit. And I want to wrap this thought here is that $100,000 mark is a magical mark because it's kind of like, I don't know. That's when people think that they're going to have it made. Mm-hmm. For me, I was never out there to try to make money. I was out there to try to add value. I'm like, we have to work. I'm not just going to sit here all day, and you can't travel all the time.
Right.
So I've got to do something with my ambition. Mm-hmm. And with my ambition, I want to go out there and try to add value to people. And so what happens when you're adding value to people, the amount of money that comes in your bank account means a lot less. So that's why I was willing to cut ties from my businesses in 2012 when I was going through that big, massive, like 2-year funk and trying to find myself and trying to find my purpose. I was okay with going from $150,000 taxable income to 26. Like literally 1 year, I went from 150, the very next year, $26,000 in taxable income. And I had a kid at that time, 2 kids.
It's a scary jump.
So same thing, people are probably thinking about this. Oh my gosh, Trevor's always had, no, it's like, I don't treat money as a measure of worth. I treat it as a tool. And I'm going, if I'm making money, but I'm not enjoying it and I'm not adding as much value, I'll be completely fine with cutting that. And this goes back to another one on the board here is I'm going to read this is money equals scarce versus money is abundant. So around that time when I was working with Jack Milligan, my mentor, my dad's best friend, I really learned that money is abundant. And I started to listen to things and talk to people. And my parents are amazing, but I never adopted the money is abundant mindset from them. They never built the money is scarce mindset. It was just there wasn't really a mindset that was adopted in me. And once I got up to Portland, I was working with Jack and started to just immerse myself in content and people who, the Science of Getting Rich, that book, and like all those books from way back when in the 1920s, 1930s that are amazing. I started to immerse myself in those. I'm like, whoa, the whole world's like abundant.
Right.
And so when I was going to go from $150,000 and cut all my main income sources to go to 26, I'm like, I'll have to trim some things down this year. And my wife had a good job, thankfully. But I was okay with it because I knew that money was abundant. Money wasn't a scarce thing.
And one of I think the most key thing I picked out from that for people my age and even preteens, high school kids is that we're going to work. A lot of people have this mindset of, I want to make this much money so that I don't have to make any more money. And there's this, there's this broken loop in the brain. There's this myth of if I get X amount of dollars, I'm not going to have to work anymore and then I'm going to be happy. It's just not true.
No. Yeah.
I'm not even going to go on about it. If you're not having purpose, if you're not doing work that you love, you're not going to be happy. Money and just sitting around is not going to make you happy.
Dude,
that's when you hit that point. It's like you had the money, but shoot, what am I doing with all this time?
100%. It's funny, dude. I was talking with someone who was retired the past few months. I can't remember who it was, but he basically said something like this. I said, "Hey, how's retirement going?" And he goes, "You know what? It was awesome for about 6 months, but you can only golf so much." He's like, "I'm ready to go back to work."
Right.
He wanted to have more purpose in his day.
Right.
And I think that's really where wealthy, I'm talking like truly wealthy people. And by wealthy, once again, it's not just a measure of money. It's a measure of money, mindset, adding value. Because I know a lot of people who have a lot of money who are just miserable people. I don't want to be around them. I wouldn't consider them wealthy. I consider them rich, but I wouldn't consider them wealthy.
Yeah.
And that's not what any of us aspire to be, I don't believe.
Right.
But this guy, he saved up for 30, 40 years. He had this vision in his mind of what it would look like when he finally had a chance to stop working. And dude, this is so funny. I was telling you right before, or this morning when I walked in, I was getting out of my truck this morning in our parking lot back there. And up behind me pulls this mailman's truck and stops directly behind my truck. And it's sitting there, it's 28 degrees outside. And then this guy walks out, this guy who's kind of like a little icon in downtown Roseburg. His name is Chuck. And Chuck owns a small Texaco shop here, and he's owned it for 50 plus years. And it's called Chuck's Texaco.
He's a mechanic.
Yeah, he's kind of does it all, right? But he's got a staff there too, a small staff, and he's always been known for being amazingly positive, providing an amazing customer experience when gas stations just don't anymore. And I can't imagine he makes a lot of money, but we were talking there, and he pulled up behind me, and he's like, "Hey, I noticed your headlight was out, and I know we talked about it a couple weeks ago. Do you want me just to grab your truck, and I'll take it down and just get the headlight fixed? I'll bring it back to you." I'm like, "That sounds amazing." So I gave him my keys, and he goes and does it. But before we parted, he said he said something to the effect of, it's like, he goes, "Every day, twice a day, I walk over to the post office and I pick up their trucks, I clean them, I gas them up, and I fix them." And he goes, "I've been doing that for 30 plus years." And he goes, "I absolutely love it." He goes, "I go all around downtown. I walk and find opportunities for people that I can help. I can wash their car. I can do this. I can fill up the gas. I can fix their headlight. I can do whatever it is." And then I just have my path now. And he goes, "I absolutely love it." And people ask him, "When are you going to retire?" He's like, "Why would I retire?" He goes, "I love this more than anything." And he doesn't make $100,000 a year.
Right. And I guarantee you he doesn't love changing headlights. He doesn't wake up in the morning and go, "Oh, I can't wait to change Trevor's headlights today or do this oil change." It's the reaction he's getting out of people. I mean, that's an assumption, but it's how he's serving people. It's
So Siri is sitting here on my desk, and all of a sudden, Siri decides, that's spooky, dude.
Siri heard this podcast episode before everybody else.
And we'll leave that in here. But yes, Siri's speaking up there. So anyway, the reason I want to bring that up is to piggyback on what you talked about retirement, hitting that $100,000 mark. That doesn't equal happiness, y'all. A measure of worth is where people who are not wealthy, money is measure of worth. Wealthy people is just a tool. Let's go down to the next one, then I'll toss over to your next question. So I'm going to run down some of these. I'm not going to run down all of them. Go follow me on Instagram. Go find me, Trevor Mauch, Mauch. Go find me on Instagram, because I'm going to be posting this graphic on Instagram that shows about 12 to 15 mindsets and things that those who are wealthy do and those who aren't wealthy do. I've seen lots of images like this flying around. I've never seen one with these exact things on it.
And this is gold. This is like the cheat sheet to, wealth. So
go follow me on Instagram, y'all. Go follow me. So the second one is people who are not wealthy. They get their income from a job, right? And I'm not. This could even apply to people who own a business. So I'm not just saying that this is people who are employees. This could apply to someone who owns a business. That they're looking at that business. Their income comes from their job. They show up, they do the work, they go home. But for wealthy people, your income eventually comes from assets, or that's your mindset anyway. Even if your income doesn't currently come from assets, your mindset is, how do I build the assets so my income comes from that? We could do a whole show on that. We're not going to, but what is that? That means going out there and buying rental properties, buying dividend stocks, buying businesses, whatever it is, starting something where the assets you're paying for actually give you money rather than take your money away.
And I want to point out something in that's broken in a lot of people's minds, and that I had to learn recently, is that just because you don't have assets, or you think you don't have the money to acquire assets, like you're talking about, it's still possible. So we don't have to dive into it too much. But when you were just getting your start in real estate, you bought a rental property.
Yeah.
How'd you buy the rental property?
21 years old. I was in college. My dad, because he's always been such a positive guy. I remember early ages, same thing. One of those weird random memories, dude, like such a weird memory. But I was young enough to where I was in the shower and my dad was in there. So it was probably like 6 or 7 years old, or probably not, probably 5 or 6 years old. And I remember us just talking about stuff, and he's like, "Hey, you can go buy, do you know you can buy houses from the bank?" Like I said, I was like crazy young, because he wanted to get into that, and he was just talking to me about it. So that's an important lesson with your kids. Talk about things that even if they're not an adult, they might remember. I remember that from such an early age. And he's like, "Do you want to do it?" I'm like, "Yeah, Dad, I've got some money in the bank, a couple $100 in the bank." And he's like, "Well, TV says you can you can buy foreclosure." I'm like, well, that's amazing. So I remember in college, Carlton Sheets commercial popped up, and my dad's like, "Hey, I'll buy this course for you for $500. I only had $600 in my bank account at that time, and this would have been I was 21 years old. So He's like, I'll buy the course for you, $500, and you've got to pay me back if you don't execute off from it.
Right.
He's like, if you don't do anything with it, you got to pay me back. If you do something with it and buy a property, you don't have to pay me back. I'm like, whoa, that sounds pretty good. So I was either taking all of the money in my bank account, pretty much. I had 600, that was 500, and giving it to him if I didn't execute it, or I would execute it and try to buy a property. So I did. I went and bought a property. I took my $600, and that's all that I had, and I put that into closing costs. So I negotiated that away. The owner carried the note back. He was in retirement. He had multiple properties. He's like, I don't need the cash. I just want the income stream. And also, if he would have got a big upfront chunk of cash because he owned it free and clear, he would have had a bigger tax bill.
Yeah.
So he said, all that I ask is you come in with $10,000. I go back to my dad and I'm like, hey, Dad, do you have $10,000 that you could loan me? And I'll give you a better rate than you're getting with the CDs, because I knew they had CDs. He's like, well, da-da-da. So I talked him into it. And he lent me $10,000 at a 6% interest rate. I paid it all off way early, and then the owner carried it back. And so I bought a property for $174,000 with $600 of my own money, and it cash flowed from day one.
That's awesome.
And so you can do it. That's the mindset. Money is abundant, not
if you
scarce.
have so you had the confidence that you could pull it off, or else you wouldn't have done it. And then you had the creativity to know how to make it happen. You weren't stuck in that, well, I don't have any money, so it is what it is. I can't go anywhere.
Confidence and a little bit of naivety too. Like I didn't know, that young people, quote unquote, aren't supposed to do that. Right. So I think that's really healthy. If you start to study too much on any of these topics we're talking about or whatever, sometimes that can actually hurt you because you know so much about so much. And if you know very little, except for the very next steps, you don't get stuck in analysis paralysis. You just go, oh, that's the next thing I should do. Okay, I'm going to do that now. Oh, that's the next thing I should do. I'm just going to do that now.
Just get out there and make the money.
Yep.
All right, what's the next thing on the list?
So spending versus savings, that's a mindset. I'm going to blow past this one pretty quick, but those who are not wealthy, they spend their money and they save it. They take the money and they allocate it. Dave Ramsey, I love the dude, and what he teaches is 100% correct if you don't want to be wealthy. It's 100% correct for the masses. Dave Ramsey is extremely wealthy, and if I had to bet, he doesn't follow his system 100% anymore.
Right.
But he did to get where he is. So his system's amazing. But if you're wealthy, you're probably not following his system. You could follow it early, though, to get wealthy. So you're spending and then you're saving money. Now, you do need to save money to hit reserves. But what happens is then people keep on saving for retirement. They put it into CDs. They might put it into stocks that they don't understand. They might have a bunch of cash.
So you save to a certain point.
You save to a certain point, and then you allocate for investments that you understand, not that you don't understand. So wealthy people invest their money only up to the point, past the point of your 6 months reserves for emergency, and then we give it. It's like we invest it and give it.
So I got a question for you on that.
Yep.
Okay, so we're in February. How many times this year, this is February, how many times in the last 30, 40 days have you been to a coffee stand?
One that was yesterday because I had to get out of the office to write my book.
Once.
And I bought a coffee just because I was there and I felt bad about not buying anything. But that's one in the past 6 months I've been to a coffee shop and actually bought coffee.
All right. If you hear that, look up the thing called the Latte Factor. How much how much money are you spending on coffee? I think that's just too simple. Okay, so once $5 in the last month. What about Sonic? I know you're pretty healthy, so you probably don't
Sonic.
eat much
Yeah,
Sonic,
in any fast food. I mean, we did a Taco Bell run last week because we were running late onto something. But other than that, no, I can't remember the last time we've spent money on fast food. Now we've gone to restaurants. We go to restaurants a lot, so I'm going to say that one. That if I were to say right now, one spot we spend money. Well, let me do this. Continue your questions, and I'm going to flip around and say what I spend my money on now that I never did before.
Okay. I think it's all about what are you driving right now?
A 2012 GMC truck that I paid for. It's all paid off.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And my wife's car is paid off. So that goes to another one. Now let me bounce to the next one here. At the very bottom up here, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, there's about 15. Go to Instagram. I'm posting it up. We're not going to be able to get through all of them here. But those who are not wealthy versus wealthy, those who are not wealthy, they take loans and debt on consumer goods. So we were talking about before we hit record on here that there's so many people, and once again, I don't want to put people down that do this. I'm just saying you might want to look at your patterns and see if you want to adjust them. And are your habits mapping to your goals? Right. And so many people have goals that their habits don't map to those goals. And so if your habit is to gain wealth or to do this or do that or have an amazing house or whatever it is, and your car is worth, 25% or more of your house, then there's a problem.
Right.
There's a problem. Your car, especially if you did it on payments, should not be worth 25% or more of your house. Like I said, unless you paid it off in cash. And there are caveats to that. Maybe you are really frugal. You've got money. Your house is paid off. You love the house. You don't need to update and upgrade, and you bought an amazing car to treat yourself. Right. That's the exception. But if you are running with a normal income, you're not in the wealthy mindset yet, and you have maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 months of expenses. Most people don't even have that. Your car should not be worth more than 25% of your. I don't even think it should be worth more than 10%. Honestly,
no,
it shouldn't. So if you have a $100,000 house and you own it, and you're driving a $45,000, $50,000 Yukon, there's an issue. Like it's a mindset issue around your money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's kind of like what we were talking about before we started keeping up with the Joneses. Mm-hmm. What if the Joneses are in $200,000 in debt?
Yeah.
Not including their mortgage. They might be.
Yep. Likely are.
If you want to be buried in debt, go ahead, keep up with the Joneses.
Exactly. So flipping over to the other side of that, on the wealthy side, is the people who have the wealthy mindset. They don't take out loans and debt and consumer goods. They buy only, we buy only if we can pay cash, except our house. Mm-hmm. But you pay off your house fast. And then credit cards. I know Ramsey is way against credit cards, and I support why he is, because credit cards are that easy. That easy addiction to spend more money than you have. So I totally support him telling people to cut them up. But I have the complete opposite opinion of him that credit cards are not useful. Credit cards are amazing. Okay, credit cards are free money, dude. Like I get thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars back every single year because of cash back and points. I get free travel because I put our spending on credit cards, and also it helps us to better manage our spending because it's all into one thing.
Right.
And we can look at that report monthly, see where we overspent, things like that. And we pay it off every month. So those who are wealthy pay off your credit card every single month. You don't carry balances. So it's just a different mindset around how do I use debt. Debt should only be used to grow wealth. Debt should be used to take out debt to grow more money. It shouldn't be used to overspend over the top of what you have.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that's a great point. And I think that really segues well into, you've got one on here that says expenses rise, and expenses stay well. Mm-hmm. Talk to me about that. What's that about?
Yeah, dude. So it's really, really common, and I think we all have little parts of this where those who are not in the wealthy mindset, their expenses tend to rise and sometimes outpace their income growth, right? So an example of that, you've all seen the people who they have been making $47,000 a year. The next 2-3 years, they somehow start making over $100,000. They've got the Audi. They've got the nice house. They've got all these things because their income went up. I know some people like that very, very well, and they're great people. Like they're great people, man. But the problem is their spending rose at the same pace. Right. And wealthy people, once again, it's to a point, but your spending doesn't rise nearly as fast, nor at the pace, and almost even stops at some point to where you just don't spend as fast as your income's growing. An example, we don't spend a lot more today than we did back when we were making a tenth of the income.
Exactly.
But here's something I will toss at you guys is this. The one mindset shift around spending that I've even had to make in the last 5 years is now once you get over a certain point with your money and you have some money saved and you're making investments and you figured out the equation of how to add value and create real amazing income, you start to now take that income and you need to buy back your time. Yeah. And so at the beginning, those who are not wealthy tend not to spend money to buy back their time. They spend money to buy stuff. Right. Wealthy people spend money to buy back their time. So we have a house cleaner that comes in every week. She's amazing. We have a yard company that comes and does all of our yard. They put up our Christmas lights. Like I'm capable of doing all that stuff. I just don't want to do it. Like I want to hang out with my family. And it was even kind of a push to get my wife to have the house cleaner come in every week. And then we'd have a pile of clothes sitting on the couch, and my wife works 2 days a week and I work. And it was like, oh man, we have this pile of clothes that we're sitting there 2 days a week folding these clothes from these 3 kids and us. And it becomes a lot of clothes, right? And so I said, what if we had a house cleaner come in? And I'm like, what if she folded our clothes? Wouldn't that be the most amazing thing ever if they folded our clothes? And Carly was like, I'm not going to make them fold our clothes. And it was so cool, man. Jenny, her office is right here. They're such an amazing company. If you're in Roseburg, work with Jenny and Aaron Barton. They're an amazing cleaning company. But we come back one day and our clothes are folded. Like we left them on the couch one day, and we just had to rush out and we didn't get them done.
Right.
And we came back and they're folded. And like that was an eye-opening thing for Carly, because she's like, huh.
Right.
Other people can, like, there's things that take away from our family time that other people be overjoyed to be able to do for us.
Right.
And so we don't, most of the time, probably half the time we fold our clothes, we don't clean our house except for just the day-to-day. We have a yard person. Jen is my assistant. She books all my haircuts. She does everything like that. That's just buying back my time.
Right.
A lot of other stuff I can probably look at. Now
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ways you buy back your time, but I mean, it's all relative though, and it's all a mindset, because even if you're not making as much money, there's still ways to buy back your time in small amounts. I think early on, you have to flip that switch and you have to decide, whether your end game is more time or you want to get more stuff. I'm not saying which way to go. You just got to know what you want. You got to have that vision. Where am I going to be? How much time do I want to have on my hands?
Yeah.
And, it really is all relative. So I'm 26. I got married when I was 19, 20. So I got married. And, I think about when we first got married, we got our first apartment. And I remember walking into our first apartment in Austin, Texas, and it was 535 square feet. And we were jazzed.
Yeah. Dude,
I had just moved out of my my bandmate's basement, and she had moved out of a friend's house. We got married, moved to Austin, and we were like, oh my gosh, we have so much space. 1-bedroom apartment, 500 square feet. And it was awesome.
Yeah.
And so over the years, little steps up, and we own our first home now. We bought a foreclosure. We've been flipping and working on it a couple of years ago. And but that's something really important to remember is, we have that conversation pretty often, is like, hey, remember where we were when we first got married. Remember where we were a few years back. Remember when we were kids. Like, we were really stinking happy. And you can't forget that. Like, a bigger house isn't going to buy you that happiness.
No.
So if the money's coming in, like we were talking about, you go from 40 grand to 60 grand, what are you going to spend that money on? Are you going to upgrade your house? Or are you going to do something awesome?
But by experiences, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna buzz through a couple more of these and answer your questions too.
Yeah.
Another one is those who are not in that wealthy mindset. Your biggest purchases tend to lose value. It's buying the fancy car when you don't have that income, or you can justify the income, but you really shouldn't be buying the fancy car. Those who are wealthy, their biggest purchases gain value. You're buying assets that gain value, and that's a big deal because as you go, so many people when they're 35, 40, 45, 55, 65. They start to look at it and go, whoa, why do I not have the level of income, level of money inside of my bank account that I think that I should? Because I make 45 a year, or 65 a year, 105 a year, whatever it is. It's because they're buying things that lose value instead of things that gain in value. And the things that lose value, you got to pay cash for them. Once again, that's where the car comes in. Save up and only buy the car that you can pay cash for, because it loses value. So why would you take out a loan that you're paying interest on something that loses value? You're a hamster on a hamster wheel that goes backwards. Like it's not that it's stopped; it just goes backwards, and you can never catch up.
Oh yeah, I think that's the perfect example of investing. Well, the worst example of investing is go out and buy a $90,000 brand new model year Mercedes, and you can look at on a graph. You can go research, what it's going to be worth 10 years from now. It's the worst investment you can make.
Yep, exactly.
I like Mercedes; they make good cars. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
No, I love it. So next one up there, focus on cutting expenses versus adding income. So those who are not in the wealthy bucket, you're looking at the expense line a lot more than those who are wealthy. And once again, I'm not saying, the obvious thing that's popping up to people like, of course I'm looking at expenses more if I'm not wealthy versus wealthy, because if you're wealthy, you have more money. You don't have to look at expenses as much. Right. I'm not saying that. I'm talking about the mindset of it. Okay. The mindset of it, even when I didn't have money, when we were up in Portland, when I racked up $16,000 in credit card debt and paid my taxes on my credit card bill and all that stuff, I wasn't really focused on cutting expenses. Now, we had our expenses really slim, okay? We weren't spending money in a bunch of different spots because I had some of these money mindsets down at an early age.
Yeah.
But what I was fully focused on, like maybe 10% of my mind was, shoot, I got to make sure we're not spending too much money. We can't go to a restaurant today. Let's eat ramen or whatever. And we did that many times, dude, where we'd have the ramen and you'd fancy it up by putting like a fried egg in there, or you'd fancy it up by chopping up some ham from the grocery store and putting it in there so it's like fancy ramen or something. We did that a lot. But the other side of it is when you're wealthy, you focus on adding income. That's where 90% of your mindset and your thinking is okay, yeah, let me do a quick check on my expenses to make sure they're not outpacing my income growth like I said below. But now 90% of my thinking is always going to be on how I add more income. And get over that mindset that income or money is scarce. It's not. It's not, y'all. It's not scarce at all. And that leads into the next one. We already talked about that. This is another one right here. So one mindset that frustrates the heck out of me, dude. Like frustrates the heck out of me. And it did before I made money. Like before I had any money, this frustrated me. And so I've heard it before, and I even saw there was something that flashed through my Instagram today. It was a screenshot of a gal. I need to find it, dude. It was a screenshot of a gal on Twitter that made a Twitter post essentially flaming people who have money, completely flaming people who are quote unquote rich with money. And she was basically saying no one should have more money than should cover your expenses. If you are wealthy and you're not taking all of your money and taking it in like, helping serve others who are not wealthy, then you're scum and da-da-da-da. She's basically, and I'm not going to get political, but this thing might sound political. She's basically saying a lot of kind of like semi-socialistic types of things, that those who have whatever should distribute the rest to those who don't. Now, I agree that those of us who have money, one of our duties, we should be a good steward of that money to help people. We donated $80,000 plus of cash this past year to help amplify causes and people that do amazing things. Okay.
Carrot.com/give. So Trevor mentioned earlier, just under $6 million in revenue last year. If you want context around that and you want to know what we do with the money, what happens when you're bringing that much money, carrot.com/give. Check it out.
Yep. I love it. So the mindset there is rich people take things from people to get money. Rich people detract value. Rich people have to in some way do something that detracts from society in order to grow money and to grow this business. And I think that mindset came from like the Industrial Revolution, where that kind of was the case in some respects, not all respects, but where the owners of those companies were doing things and putting people in terrible work conditions and building these massive houses that were Vanderbilt size houses and growing wealth far beyond what current people have ever. Even Zuckerberg and Bezos don't have the wealth as a percentage that those back in that 1860 through 1950, 1930 phase had. If you look at Vanderbilt and you look at all those people, if you were to extrapolate it out to today and account for inflation, their wealth far trumps any living person alive right now. It's crazy because they did hoard a lot of that wealth. Then they gave a lot of it away, right? They gave a lot of it away too. So there are a lot of things where it's like the minority of those examples, they actually give everyone else who has money a bad name. But on the flip side of it, those who are wealthy, is you become rich by adding value. And so that's at that early age when I started to be around Jack and some other people. I'm like, whoa, so there's this whole different world out there. So many people think that in order to grow money, you have to detract and take from someone, that someone's got to lose in order for you to win. And it's not a zero-sum game. Someone does not have to lose in order for you to win. And as long as you make that mindset and go, whoa, everyone can win, I just need to help people win even more than they would without me. How can I help people win more with me than without me? But if I can help people win more with me than without me, they win, I win, and I should be compensated really well for that. And so as soon as I started to adopt that mindset, I'm like, cool. Number one, I'm going to start with the value part rather than the money part. So when I didn't have money and I couldn't sell consulting services, I would go out there and go, cool, well, I'm just going to add value and I'm not even going to charge them. I'm just going to go, hey, look at this business. Here's an opportunity. Here's an opportunity for this business to increase their income or to optimize this. I'm just going to reach out to them and say, hey, here's these 5 ideas. Go run with it. A couple of people said, awesome, that sounds great. Can you do it for me? I'm like, I'll do it for you for free. And I just did it for them for free because I didn't want to, I'd been rejected so many times selling these services. I'm like, I'll just do it for you for free. And I do it for them for free, for experience for me, but also to show that I could get results. I did. And then they're like, can you do more? But I want to pay you this time. I'm like, oh, okay. So I can add value. And if I can add value and add more value to their life and business than they would ever have without me, I should be compensated well. And get rid of the mindset that your value isn't immense. Right. Over the years, that's one thing I've struggled with, Brady, even here with Carrot, where I struggle, where I undercharge. Right. I far undercharge versus the value. And I think I'd rather be there than overcharging. I don't think I know that. But I still undercharge. And so one little mindset trick that I'll throw you guys' way, I didn't write this on there, but I'm going to, is those who are not wealthy or just trying to get going with your business or whatever it is, when you're getting ready to send out a proposal or start a business or put out that Kickstarter campaign or whatever it is, they tend, and I was in this mindset, and I still find myself in it sometimes, you tend to pick a price and then you reduce it at the last second to make it a guarantee that the person will buy it. You pick a price and go, okay, I think that's fair. And then this insecurity pops up and you go, I'm just going to reduce it a little bit. Just so they don't think I'm like crazy, and they'll probably take this. And so I stopped doing that. And this is about 5 years ago. I'm like, well, you know what? I'm going to stop doing that. I'm going to completely flip the script. And every single proposal I send out now, I'm going to increase. I'm going to first of all set the price that I think is like pushing the bounds of towards the middle to the high end. And I'm like almost where I'm uncomfortable with that price. And I'm 50-50 coin flip whether they'll take it or not. This applies to real estate investors, real estate agents, anyone making an offer. Your offer shouldn't be so comfortable that you know someone's going to take it. And then at the last second, I'd go, okay, pull back, increase it 15%, send it off, cross my fingers and see what happens. And so I started doing that 5 years ago before Carrot, probably 6 years ago. And the funny thing is when you show that you're adding value and you're confident in your ability to add the value, people start accepting those proposals. And so I kept on doing that. Like take my price to the max of what I could. If you're a real estate investor, you take your price to the max on the low end to where it's uncomfortable for you to make an offer that low. Okay. And then potentially look at your math again. And if you think there's room and someone else isn't going to take the business, then maybe even reduce it more and see what happens. You have to kind of take a gauge what your competition level is in your market. And if you're going to lose deals that would have been great deals at that original price, of course, don't reduce it to 15% or whatever your number is. But for consulting, for sure, that works.
And I mean, I think that applies whether you're an employee, a business owner, entrepreneur, freelancer, whatever, is that, you got to realize there's a few different pricing models. There's different things to consider, of course, if you're in retail or if you got a mom and pop shop or whatever, but especially if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a freelancer, people are going to pay what your services are worth to them. And so the broken thinking is that, well, this is how much everybody else is charging, or this is how much I think it should cost. This arbitrary, usually low, like you're saying, undercharged number, but people are going to pay what it's worth to them, you know?
And so this goes back to the money is scarce mindset though, right? So that mindset, when you're insecure about the offers you're making as a real estate agent, real estate investor, if you're insecure about it as a consultant, I don't care what it is, it's because you're coming at it from the money is scarce mindset. If money is abundant, you don't care if that client says yes. There's always another client. You just say next, and I'm gonna go to the next one. So if you don't care if that client says yes, you're probably more towards the money is abundant mindset. It's like, cool, that one didn't work. Let me go try this again, right? So because there's always more clients out there. There's always more money out there.
7 billion people on this planet. There's always the next person.
So money is not scarce. Money is crazy abundant. So I think I went through all of those. We didn't really go in order, but what other questions do you have on the top of your mind, man?
Yeah, I think we hit them all. And keep your eyes on Trevor's Instagram, trevor.mock. We'll put that little diagram up there for you guys to share and check it out. Yeah, so we can kind of wrap it up here. One of the questions I wanted to ask you is kind of about money and happiness. What's one of the best things you ever spent money on? What is the like? Don't think big.
Yeah.
Like
one of the best things I ever
money
spent
could
money
buy
on,
happiness.
Man. That's a really good question, dude. The funny thing is I don't really spend my money much. You know, it's like other than the house.
You talked about experiences.
Yeah, I mean,
You're married, so you did buy a wedding ring at one point.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole slew of that stuff, right? Wedding ring. We would go on little 2-week road trips after each kid was born, which cost a little bit of money, but not much. And those are always amazing. If I had to boil it down, dude, it's definitely the experiences. It's definitely the experiences. And one thing that I would love to do is this. It's actually on my life list. So ask me in 2 years, and this might be one of the top 5. But I would love to be able to use the money that we've been blessed with to be able to give other people outside of my immediate family experiences they'd probably never be able to have.
Right.
And so one that's kind of been percolating in my mind, it's a very, like, you guys are going to listen to this and go, oh my gosh, like Trevor's talking about, spending on good stuff and not bad stuff. This is like one of the worst things, the most wasteful things. But I've always thought it was cool, like, to go on a vacation in a private jet. Like, there's no reason for it other than it's cool, right? But I think if you have money, you have to have some of those really frivolous things within bounds to reward yourself a little bit for it. And once again, that girl on Twitter would completely flame me that I'd be willing to spend $25,000 or $30,000 to go on a vacation and use more fuel and whatever. And like, she's probably right. Like, it's 100% right. If you're listening to this, which you're probably not. But well, I would love to do that, and not just my immediate family, but my parents and my wife's parents and my brothers and their families and Carly's brother and his family, and my grandma. It would be amazing to get us all on a private jet. We do a big family vacation together. Both sides of the family like that have never really done a vacation together, and I think it'd just be a really, really cool experience that we all get to share in.
That's funny because I was saying, and a lot of people say money can't buy happiness, but money can buy experiences. And so in a way it can buy experiences. It can buy memories. I think that's awesome.
And that's something we'd remember forever. And once again, they would never, I'm not going to say never, like there might be an instance where something might happen, but on the current path, that would probably never happen for any of us. So little dumb things like that, but that goes back to an experience.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So I want to throw out one little story that's really stuck with me through the years. So my wife and I were going to church a few years ago, and our pastor was up there telling this story about how him and his wife were on vacation. They're with their kids. They got like a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, and they're on the beach. And they had been planning it for months, supposed to be this awesome vacation. And they're walking down the beach. Kids are throwing a fit, out of control, arms going everywhere. They're crazy. And they were stressed out, and he's telling the story. He's like, this was supposed to be awesome. This was supposed to be our vacation, spending all this money. And, just getting all frustrated and all worked up, and they're dragging the kids along. And then on the beach, he sees this guy and his wife, a little ways down. And he says, this French guy, dressed really well. He's got a really nice hat, perfect mustache. Anyways, fancy French dude. And they're walking down the beach, and he's thinking, oh my gosh, this is so embarrassing. My kids, just calm down. This is awful. And so they get closer, and he's about to pass the couple. And he's like, I look up and I put a smile on him, like, hey, how's it going? I got it all together. Look at me. And he said the strangest thing. He said the guy, he stopped in his tracks, and he just looked him in the eye and looked at Luke, the dad, and he said, you are rich. And I just thought, oh my goodness. And he didn't even know what to say. That's all I said. He looked him in the eyes and said, you are rich. And he kept walking. That's all I said. Yeah. And so it's so important to realize that, money set aside, what do you have right now that's making you quote unquote rich? What do you have in your life that you have to be grateful for, to be thankful for? In that sense, I'm rich right now.
100%. 100%.
I'm rich. I tell myself every day, my wife, my kid, what do you have that's making you rich right now?
Yep. I love it, dude.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is you were telling that story, I go back to the very, very first item on the top of that chart that we're posting on my Instagram, and it's those who are not wealthy use money as a measure of worth versus those who are wealthy use it as a tool, right? So the reason that popped up when you were saying that, I'm like, oh my gosh. So the reason someone might be unhappy because of their income is because they're using that number as a measure of worth. The second that you get money away from being a measure of worth and just strictly as a tool, no matter if you're making $20,000 a year or $20 million a year, the second that you remove money as a measure of worth is the second that your happiness skyrockets. And your worth should be exactly what you talked about there is, do I have my health? So can you use your money to buy back time so you can get your health back, so you can work out?
Right.
So you can, that's what I had to do here, right? I'm like, I have some extra money. Can I get a trainer in here? Let's build a gym. I'm buying my health back. So money is a tool at that spot. So this isn't, guys and gals, like, I don't want you guys to think about this and leave this call going, oh my gosh, now I'm definitely not wealthy it's not it. Right. That's not it. Like Brady said, you are rich right now. Like, you are 100% rich right now. And if we were to even look at the literal sense of it, and you've probably heard this before, y'all, but you're in the top 1%. You're probably in the top 0.25%. Probably in the top 1/10 of 1%.
Yeah.
Financially in the world. Every single person listening to this, I don't care if you're $100,000 in debt, what it was like, you're in the top 1% lifestyle wise, probably money wise, all that stuff. And so just like Brady said, I want to double down on it. How are you rich right now? I want you to write this on a piece of paper. Grab a piece of paper. If you're driving or in the shower or whatever, start to think through that list of things. What are you grateful for right now? How are you rich right now? Because I guarantee you, if you're in a tough spot financially, you're going to look back at these years and 2 years and 5 years and 10 years and go, man, those were amazing years. When I look back at the years when I had no money and I was going in debt and I had real estate, but you're asset rich, cash poor, dude, those are amazing years. They're like some of my favorite years ever. And just a few weeks ago, it was catching me in a similar moment like that. I've got 3 kids, 4, 6, and 8, and they were high energy to say the least in this one situation. Yeah. And I could remember a year or two prior where I would just kind of catch myself being slightly overwhelmed because I didn't take off my work mask when I stepped into the house and say, okay, now I'm dad, now I'm husband. And a couple of years ago, I was in that mindset a lot. And so what happens is you get agitated. You're pulling out your phone, and all of a sudden, all that little bit of kid rambunctiousness all of a sudden creates agitation. Right. You might snip at them. And you feel like you're the worst dad in the world when you do that, and then you immediately recognize, oh my gosh, this darn device, get it away from me and be present. Right. But I was fully present in this moment, and the kids were being rambunctious, and they were kind of bouncing off the walls, but they're right there, but they were laughing, and I would go, man, these years right here, 4, 6, and 8, I hear it from people all the time. They go, you are in like the years. The years you're in are like the best of your life. Enjoy it. Right. Enjoy it, no matter your income level, y'all. And so that's something I'm having to really be intentional about, is get that phone out of my hand. I'm still struggling with it in some respects, but I'm getting better. Some days I crush it, some days I don't. But I'm doing way, way, way better, just being present way more often, man. It's like the vast majority of the time now where I'm like, man, these are the years. And I'll just sit there and have this wave of happiness come over me, and I'll just sit back and watch my wife over there and just like, oh my gosh, she's like so beautiful and I'm so lucky. Or watch my kids and go, man, like I'm gonna so miss that 6-year-old Colton voice in 10 years. Yep. And so I'm rambling here, but I'm gonna throw this one last cherry on the top, is to help you really soak those moments in what you're rich in right now. One thing that I've done is this podcast is one of them. Like, I document these things so I want my kids to hear them someday. Right. But I take my phone, and I've got a whole slew of them where I take the phone into the bedroom with the kids. We do a quick cuddle with them every night, and each one of the kids has their own little routine with each one of us. And so Sydney likes to talk about stories. She always says, she calls them childhoods. But she's like, can you tell me a childhood, Daddy? She wants to hear one quick story from my childhood. And so that's the routine with her. A couple minutes, I tell her a childhood. I'm digging down in my brain bank to try to find new ones. And then Colton, he's probably talking about animals or pet planets or something. He's a really analytical dude. And then McKinley just wants to hang out with you and cuddle. She just wants to love on you. And I take out my phone, I turn on the voice recorder app, and I just hit record during bedtime.
Right.
And I go to the different beds, and we have the conversations, and I save it, and this is this date, and here's the highlight of that convo. And I've got dozens of them right now. And I'm going to be so pumped in 5 years and 10 years and 15 years to go back and listen to those little moments where we're rich right now.
Oh, it's priceless.
And that right there doesn't matter. Like, you could be sleeping on mats in a hut somewhere and have those moments, and those are the moments where it's at.
Oh, yeah.
So,
and it didn't cost you a dime. Cost less than a McDonald's Happy Meal.
It didn't cost me a dime, man. So
that's awesome.
For me, this convo has been awesome, and hopefully you guys have taken some multiple perspectives away from it. Once again, I have massive flaws in still the way that I handle money. I'm really good at making income, but I haven't been great at taking that money and having it work for me as well as I need to be. So I've got friends and mentors and people that I'm going to be way more intentional about this year to take that income and put it into things that are adding value instead of sitting in the bank. The next thing I want you guys to do is go to my Instagram, follow me on Instagram, because I'm going to be posting this. And I want you guys to go down that list and circle the ones where you find yourself in that mindset. And the aim here isn't to make you a millionaire, unless becoming a millionaire is a tool that's going to help you make an impact. That's the only reason I became a millionaire, is because it's a tool to help me make an impact. Millionaire happened because I was adding value. It didn't happen because I was trying to make $1 million.
Right.
And then go down and circle those ones, and the ones that are on the left side of the column, where those are not good money mindsets, I want you to pick one this week and go, how can I have a positive situational affirmation, like we brought up in the last in a recent podcast? How can I have a positive situational affirmation around this money mindset this week, and carry that forward? Okay, if it's the money is scarce versus abundant one, and you find yourself having opportunities where you're you're pulling back on something because you feel it's a scarce thing and new opportunities won't pop up, start to have a situational affirmation like this. Like, it could be, money is abundant. Money will flow my way. Money flows to value. Okay. Money isn't a measure of success. Money is a result of adding value. If you have a positive situational affirmation like that, and you say it 2, 3, 4, 5 times a day, you say it when you wake up, we say it in any situation where you find yourself having a bad money mindset, that's going to help you blast through it and go over to the other side of it. That's your guys' homework. And I want you to be convicted about that. Don't think you've got to have all these, because I don't have them all. There's a couple here that I'm like, I need to work on that one. I'm there 50% of the time, but not there all the time. And so that's not the aim, is if you're not all to the right, then you're not successful.
Right.
The aim is progress, is picking the ones that you're not nailing off the Instagram thing and going, you know what? I just want to make progress on this one this year.
Yep.
I just want to make progress in these 3 this year. And that's a success.
Yeah. Progress, not perfection. Yeah, share it up. Use hashtag #RichRightNow. Share this image,
Cool.
hashtag #RichRightNow. Love to hear what you have right now. It's making you rich.
I love it. So right after this,
got.
I'm going to post mine. I'm going to post my Rich Right Now. We're going to be following that. And I love it, Brady. Good idea, dude. So everyone, Rich Right Now. Take a picture, make a post on Instagram and or Facebook. Ideally Instagram, because it's kind of cooler on there, but you can do it on either. But Rich Right Now. How are you rich right now?
Yeah, we want to see it. Maybe we'll bring them up on a podcast episode in the future. Tag @trevor.mock, hashtag Rich Right Now.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Brady, awesome man. Go to carrot.com/ask to tune into our first episode. Or if you've listened to this after our first episode, go to carrot.com/ask. And every single week, I'm going to be answering questions live from people just like you. And I'm crazy pumped about it, y'all. Last thing, rating and review. One of the biggest things that iTunes does to really bump up people in the charts and get more exposure to messages like this is reviews. And I know I'm really, really bad at giving reviews to podcast episodes or podcasts that I love. I got reminded of it last week, though. I brought up Charlie Jabley, the Charlie Rocket Show. And I've been really bad at giving reviews, but I'm like, you know what? This guy has been lighting me up lately. And it's worth me to pay him with 3 minutes of my time to go over there and give appreciation and fire him up and give him that gratitude, throw him that love, and show him one of those reasons I'm rich right now. I'm rich because I've got these amazing mentors that I can tune in through podcasts for free. And thank you, Charlie, for this. It's lighting me up this week. So If any of our episodes are doing that to you, I would love, 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 and so appreciate, and I'm going to throw good vibes your way massively. I read every single one of them. Go to iTunes right now while you're remembering it, and please go there, invest 2 to 3 minutes, and give a heartfelt review on there on exactly what the Carrot Cast has done for you. Let's get 300 reviews, y'all, over the next month, the next 2 months. Let's blow it up, get it up the iTunes chart so more and more people follow this so they can get out of the trap of living in a way that's not empowering, living in a way that doesn't add value. Get out of the trap of living in a mindset that sucks you down and other people, and over to the side where we're going to help you grow freedom, flexibility, grow those finances, and help you make an impact, y'all. Go to iTunes, leave that rating and review. Would love you forever.